Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Ukraine and Russia, are we headed for a bloody war in Europe? How concerned should we be with the bellicose activity along the border? The threat of an invasion and a military escalation in Ukraine cannot be completely ruled out. But the ostentatious way in which Russia appears to be going about the matter against the backdrop of a spike in tensions with the US suggests that, for the present at least, the developments are probably more of a deliberate display of power rather than an imminent threat of war. Russia's recent buildup of 80,000 troops on its eastern border with Ukraine and in Crimea has put the international community on high alert. There are widespread concerns about Moscow's intentions and a possible threat of war. Technically, Ukraine and Russia have been engaged in a conflict since 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea and backed separatist forces in Ukraine's eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, collectively Donbass. The ongoing hostilities in the region have largely faded from the international headlines in recent years. But the latest aggravation in the security situation serves as an important reminder that the conflict is far from over. In fact, given the strategic importance of Ukraine to Russia, any solution to the crisis remains very distant. A combination of several possible factors is likely to explain why we are seeing this intensification in regional tensions now and why Russia might be seeking to escalate the conflict in Ukraine. First, following the election of Joe Biden as U.S. president, the deterioration in relations between Moscow and Washington was expected, with an intensification of hostilities in eastern Ukraine being one way in which Russia was likely to project its dominance. Second, there has been a recent intensification of discussions about Ukraine accelerating its membership in NATO. While this is highly unlikely for the foreseeable future, Ukraine joining the Western Alliance has always been categorically opposed in Moscow. Third, in February, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, stepped up efforts aimed at curtailing the influence of pro-Russia political and oligarchic forces in Ukraine, as demonstrated by the sanctioning of Russian President Vladimir Putin's close friend and one of Ukraine's opposition leaders, Viktor Medvedchuk. Fourth, so far, Moscow has failed to resolve the enduring water insecurity issues in Crimea, which it pledged to address by the summer of 2021, after Kiev cut off water supplies to the peninsula. This continues to result in very high costs for Moscow, with some estimates suggesting that the occupation of Crimea cost Russia about $23 billion (16.7 billion pounds) during the first 5 years. As such, the recent military buildup could be a way to pressure Kiev on the issue. Fifth, Turkey has also recently increased its support for Ukraine and condemned Russia's aggression during a meeting between Zelensky and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on April 12. Russia has reportedly expressed concerns over the presence of Turkish drones in the Donbass. This issue is likely to be especially contentious given that Russia-Turkey relations came under severe strain after Turkey offered strong backing to Azerbaijan during last year's war with Armenia over the disputed territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Russia perceived this as an intrusion on its regional sphere of influence. But despite this intensification in regional tensions, the risk of a military confrontation between the two countries, or an outright Russian invasion of Ukraine currently remain relatively unlikely. There are several reasons for this. If you like this video, hit the notification button for more news. Thank you for watching.